Rachel DesRochers here, your host of Kitchen Convos, this awesome platform where we have the ability to share stories of amazing people in our community, all about food and, of course, gratitude. And I'm so excited for a home edition with Grant Johnson of Plymouth Springs Fish Company, and totally met you randomly in our facility. And I was like, wait a minute, you're a pretty cool dude. So here we are in your house, which God bless your wife.
Oh, yeah. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here.
So you have a smoked fish company. Is that the...
Yeah, we do. I know.
Yeah.
It's odd. We have a company that is based in Wisconsin, where the fish are raised. Yep. And there are a series of freshwater ponds that are fed by ice cold springs that are flowing year round, whether we use them or not. And so we use that natural resource to raise super clean, healthy rainbow trout.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So we process and deliver to restaurants and houses. And
how long have you been doing this?
Oh, we are going into our third year.
Okay.
So we're still alive. But yeah.
Every year is an amazing feat, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's a labor of love. It's definitely started as a passion business. We got into this mainly because of food and because of health.
Yeah, okay.
And it all kind of started with my daughter, who had a severe food allergy. So we kind of wiped out the whole kitchen and revamped everything and revisited what we were looking at. And at the same time, my passion for, aquaculture and fish in general crossed paths with this food world. And we found this business and fell in love with it and went in heads first on it.
That's so cool. Yeah. So what was your job now that, as you and I were kind of talking earlier, is that you're probably 100% full time on the fish company, because that's just what we have to do to make them survive. Right. But
it's a balance.
It is a balance.
It's a balance. I've been in the IT world and software world for years, and that's how I make my living.
It's awesome.
This has been evolving from a passion to a real business, and so we're transitioning into more of a full-time role.
We find that though, right? Like the software engineer who's like starts the smoked trout company because why not?
Right.
Right? Well, I mean, like that, we have these conversations pretty consistently though, is like, there's something more. Yeah. Our purpose is bigger.
Sure. And exactly. And you look at, what's your legacy, or what gets you up in the morning? We, before we started today, we were just talking about this for you is a creative outlet, and it fuels you. And that's a business that fuels me. And, if it can become my primary source of income, and we can, provide as many people with a traceable premium, quality, protein source, that's a great thing.
So let's talk about that. Like it all started because of one of your kids and how broken our food system is. Correct. In a way, right? Yeah. And now all of a sudden you guys have went, head first into creating a company that means something. So what does it mean?
Yeah, so it means that where this food comes from, and how it's raised, and what it's fed, and we independently lab test our fish to show that there is no glyphosate from the runoff. We show that there's no mercury in our fish, that there are no antibiotics and all these things. And you're right, a broken food system that we grew up with, and as a result, we pass that on to our children, and that was a lot to take on, and felt responsible to do something about it. So there's a gene called the MC4R gene, which it's going to sound scarier than it is, but my daughter, we learned after a lot of food allergy testing, had a mutated gene. Okay. So she was struggling. She had gut permeability issues. She had allergies to food that just didn't make sense, and we just kind of went into this wormhole of learning about nutrition and learning about, even how we can have passed on the bad, broken food system traits that we grew up with to our kids.
So getting back then to the basics, right? Of like real whole food.
Just food, just food that you know what's in it, and you know how it was raised, and you know that it was clean. And we can get into this later, but we deal with the farmed versus wild caught fish debate all the time.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy conversation, but historically, farm fish have primarily been done in public waters and net pens, densely stocked, causing the need for antibiotics and, sea lice, and they negatively impact the ecosystem that they're in. They have escapees that get out and impact the native, salmon population in some cases. And so we have a unique situation where ours are contained ponds. The water is moving and it's constant and it's exchanging several times a day in these ponds.
Okay.
And then we have a collection pond where all of the fish waste essentially ends up in that pond. And then we harvest from that and turn that into fertilizer. So so the runoff that comes from our final pond is cleaner and colder and better than the stream that it's going into.
So it's the new farm raised.
It is. It's just, it's like anything else. It's not real scalable. We don't densely stock our ponds.
Yeah.
And the water stays clean and the fish taste good. And chefs in the region have known it for years, and that's why they come out and they source our fish directly from our farm. And there's no magic to it other than giving it a good clean feed and having good clean water and harvesting sustainably. And so
sounds pretty like human being. Clean water, good food.
Yeah, pretty simple. Pretty simple.
It's pretty simple, but we overcomplicate this really consistently. This really simple system.
Yeah, and
right?
And seafood is the Wild West still. Seafood is probably the most untraceable, undocumented for very good reasons. Why we don't know where our seafood comes from, and even with. Now the beauty of the internet and the beauty of social media is that these companies are getting exposed and regulations are changing and we're improving. So we're sort of capitalizing on that, and that we're fully transparent about how we raise our fish. Yeah.
So you guys started 3 years ago, you and a friend?
Yeah. So we sort of, it was me, and it was an aquatic biologist that wanted to live on the farm and run the farm, and sort of befriended him. I gave him some ownership in the company.
That's awesome.
And he wanted to live there, and he ended up getting married there. Our kids came up for the wedding. It was this beautiful, picturesque wedding on the farm. And he was the fish expert. He went to school for this and had the degree in this and the passion for it. And I felt like my sales and marketing background could apply, and my knowledge in the food industry and what consumers wanted to know was a good fit.
Absolutely.
So that's how we started. Yeah.
So you obviously live in Cincinnati. How often are you going out to Wisconsin?
I get that a lot. Yeah. It kind of depends on what's going on, but I would say I average a couple times a month.
Okay.
We've recently discovered a way to ship fish via cargo. So most commercial flights have the option to send packages overnight. Now you have to go to the airport and pick it up. But for all the fish that's sort of been delivered and sold here, it's been kind of nice because I can go to just off the airport in northern Kentucky, and Southwest Cargo has been fantastic. They hold it in cold storage, they ship it overnight, and I go pick it up.
That's awesome.
But I drive up there a couple times a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that you have a packaged smoked product. Is that your signature product?
It is. It's sort of the secret sauce, the secret recipe that came with the farm. This was a 35-year-old recipe that Jenny and Chuck Anderson, who were husband and wife couple, built this farm with their own two hands, and they had this smoking recipe and this big, beautiful commercial smoker, and it was a staple at the Dane County Farmers Market, which is like one of the largest farmers markets, which is in Madison, Wisconsin. People would line up, for hours to get the smoked fish.
That's so wild.
So,
do you guys still participate in that market?
Yeah, so that was an interesting thing that happened. That market has been so successful because they're so strict on their policies, and when the farm changed hands, we had to go on a 3-year waiting list. So
no way.
So we think next summer we're going to be back there, and we're excited about it because we're 40 minutes from Madison, and it's a beautiful place, and people are reaching out all the time. Like we'd love to, wish your fish was here.
So you talked about like capacity issues.
Yeah.
How do you grow, or what does that look like from a scalability, or are you guys, do you feel like you're at capacity right now 3 years in?
Yeah, it's another good question. So we have acquired another site. So we have 2 farms and we have 2 sources of water. What's interesting about that region, it's where the glaciers came through like 10,000 years ago, and it created this driftless region, which is the drift that the glaciers pushed, and it created springs. And so there are these springs that have decent flows, and there are small mom and pop fish farmers all over the region with no real outlet or way to process, because the big processors don't want to handle them or smoke or get their product out. So we're working on these, small farmers and sort of putting together this collaborative.
I love that.
And to use your word, but co-op. And so we're now an outlet for these families to have their fish get processed. And
so do you guys process on the farm?
Yeah. So we have a USDA, HACCP, FDA certified facility, which was another huge learning curve. We thought it was like a liquor license where we were going to inherit this thing. And they said, well, we haven't been out there in 15 years. So all of our laws have changed. So we had to rewrite our entire HACCP plan, get fully educated.
Which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
If you're looking for something to do on a Saturday night.
It's like 8 months of my life I won't get back.
Yeah, true that.
But we're there, and we've recently got a lot of attention because our smoked product it's tasty and it's fresh, and there's not a whole lot of secret science to it other than it's like I say, a tomato. A tomato off the vine versus one that was shipped across the country just tastes better.
And you're right, there's not a lot of secret sauce.
Right.
But this real secret sauce is the consistency to do it the hard way.
Correct.
Right? And so going back to the root of good food is this really simple method.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize how in the farmers or the meat or the seafood, whatever it is, to keep it clean and good actually is a lot of work.
It's hard, and it's not big business. It's not, I've been, my paycheck for my whole career has come from big companies, but this is not a big business thing. It's
slow and steady.
And keeping it small and decentralizing it is not what big corporations want to hear. It's not what investors want to hear. It's not.
How do we make money off of that again?
How do we scale? How do we cut corners? How do we, that's essentially what they're saying. And we don't compromise on that. And,
because I believe that right there is what makes you successful and actually withstand the test of time.
Yeah. And it's like when you find a community, which I think, you've expressed is so important to you and what you do. Once you find that community and you now have a platform for communicating and getting the word out, there are great folks doing companies to support that, like Elise, at the Ohio Valley. So, food hubs like that are real, and there are real business-minded people behind them now.
Yeah.
And we're excited about that.
So what is your platform right now in Cincinnati?
In terms of our distribution or where is our fish going? So Ohio Valley Food Connection.
They operate out of the Incubator Kitchen Collective.
Yeah, out of the Incubator.
If you don't know what they're doing, look them up.
Yeah, they're amazing, and she's just incredible. And we've been great, successful with just going direct to some of the restaurants and markets. Fond Deli.
Yeah, I love Ethan.
Ethan's phenomenal, and he's got a new spot down in Oakley.
So he worked out of our very first kitchen in Covington.
Okay, yeah.
In 2013, making his hummus. And we had this really cool little 1,000 square foot kitchen, and he had his own little station and his refrigerators, and he'd come in and
he's a hustler.
He is. So it's really great. Slow and steady. And again, he is a great example of someone who said, this is my rule. These are my rules and regulations, my standards, my beliefs, my core, and I'm just going to do it this way.
Yeah. And I've had a chance to get to know him, and he's obviously doing a great thing, and he gets approached by people that want to throw a bunch of money at him and blow this thing out. And he's just, he's doing it his own way.
You can't, right?
No,
like there's a point of like, okay, do we sell off or do we get investors? And I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
No.
It's the integrity part of it, right? Like, how do we do it? And we've had the conversations. I'm like, but do you believe in gratitude? And they're like, I don't know how to make money off of that. And I'm like, well, that's not what my question is, right? Like, my question is, do you believe in gratitude? Because I think we can change the world, right? Yeah. Like, let's just do that. Like, there's no what else do we have to do today?
Exactly.
So, but it is that, right? Like, being at a position too where you feel confident enough to say thanks but no thanks, or sure, come in, let's have the conversation, but it has to look like this.
And so, back to your question of how do we grow? I really think it is through partner growers and providing a value-added product through our processing and our smoking for them, and getting them into markets that they're just not currently in. So
you're selling to Fond right now. Any other restaurants in town?
Yeah. So, I'd have to go through the list of Ohio Valley delivers to. And then we also do a direct consumer business. So you can buy online. You can buy our fish, PlymouthSpringsFishCo.com. But
ship right to your door.
Ship right to your door. Yep. On dry ice, straight from the farm.
That's awesome.
So, and there are some other food hubs in Illinois and in Milwaukee and Madison that we've been fortunate to get plugged into.
That's awesome.
And once folks try it, it's my favorite thing is we do the Montgomery Farmers Market.
Okay.
Love to get down to Hyde Park, but it's like spread yourself too thin and
it's a. Do you like it's almost like okay, we need the college kid that can come and like be there, but you also like the story is so important.
It is.
And in where we are right now from a production standpoint, I'm in awe of the amount of people who are making food right now, and just incredible stuff.
Yeah. Great stuff. And just selfishly, I love having access to that.
Oh yeah.
That stuff.
Yeah.
Cause it wasn't 10 years ago.
It makes it easy to have that as your lifestyle.
Yeah.
There's no like, oh, I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
Well, there's 12 farmers markets every day in Cincinnati. Like, right? Like we have, now we're at this capacity point, right? Like we have these critical conversations with farmers market managers to be like, I love the idea of a new community farmers market right? Like these guys are literally making food 7 days a week and are at these markets. Like, they are exhausted.
Yeah. And that's getting back to they can only be so many places at once, and having an outlet or a distribution model that they can get a premium price for. That's the ultimate struggle, right? The farmer, the producer always gets squashed.
Yeah.
And as that balances out more and companies realize that they can, like Elise, I hate to keep going back to her, but she's realizing that she can demand a premium price for a premium product and pass a large percentage of that onto the producer or the farmer. And so that's really important for that to even this model to work.
Right. So. Because, excuse me.
Yeah. No,
you can, thank God you can edit that out.
Yeah, right. No, I hear my stomach growling too.
I just totally. No, I love, and I think what Elise does really well too is that she's telling the consumers on both sides, right? So like the restaurant or the institutional side, but also these home buyers that I love, and we've talked about it a few times, is this green umbrella and the 10% shift, right? It's not that we're saying, hey, go buy everything from a local supplier. If you can, that's amazing. But
it's cost prohibitive in some cases.
Most household budgets don't really allow that. But if you can at least do 10%.
Supplement. Yeah.
The 10% is a viable number, even if it's just your milk.
Right. And then you get to the point where that's forcing you to just think consciously about other food choices throughout the day, or whether you're, at work or wherever you are. So I think it's huge for not just the food system, but also our overall health and having access to that food.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, yeah.
What else?
Yeah, no, I mean, we're just at a point now where back to your question about scaling and, also the conversation around the farmed versus the wild caught.
Yeah.
So to jump back on that for a minute, just to clarify, if you have access, again, it comes down to access and knowing that it's real. If you have access to fresh seafood off the boat in waters that are clean, great. But the number of people that have access to that, it's almost nothing.
Right.
It's nothing unless you live on the ocean. And even then, just last year, the Seattle Times, where the Puget Sound is, and they have Chinook salmon right there in the Sound. Researchers and folks in the community realize that they should probably take a look at these wild caught fish, because they know that a lot of things get dumped into the Puget Sound, and just the reality of it sparked this study. So they harvested thousands of Chinook salmon out of the Puget Sound and started testing them. The things that came back in unbelievably high levels were just shocking. Everything from, what do people flush down the toilet that doesn't get treated in the public system? All their drugs. These fish were tested for high levels of cocaine, Lipitor, birth control. I mean, all kinds of things that are just...
So even these people who consciously are thinking, well, I'm like, it's in my backyard.
It's wild caught.
I'm making a great decision.
It's wild caught. Yeah. And that has been a valid argument, if you go back, decades.
Yeah.
But we've polluted our waters. And so that's a challenge too. So I think that sustainably done aquaculture is really where we are, and indoor tanks is also viable when it's done right. I mean, the largest Atlantic salmon farm in North America is an hour away from us. It's a year in. It was funded by the Ashley Furniture family. Wow. Yeah, it's called Superior Fresh, and it's an massive aquaponics operation. It's football fields of lettuce. Wow. And the water from the salmon tanks is sent directly to the lettuce beds. They convert it to food and send that water clean back to the salmon. So the water use is almost nothing. I mean, they're supplementing with a tap, like your kitchen tap. So that's the future of feeding people, really, with sustainable protein.
How do we find out more about that? I mean, that's such a huge topic.
It is. And I think, again, platforms like social media and YouTube, with all of the information available out there,
it's a big one to go down a rabbit hole in.
It's a huge one because it's not been done, the right way for years. And you really have to look at the U.S. because the U.S. is highly, highly regulated. When you start getting farmed fish out of countries that are not regulated, I mean, look at what Costco ran into not too long ago. Costco has wild Atlantic salmon.
Yeah.
It's caught in the wild. It's harvested. But then it's so cheap to process in China, they were shipping it to China, where there's no traceability. So the salmon that was coming back, that was wild caught, you have no idea if it was the salmon you sent. And eventually they were exposed and had to change what they were doing. But that's Costco. They run they run a well-oiled, transparent machine, and well, it's
crazy.
It's crazy because
they're talking about even
West.
in the cat, like with your meat, like chicken processing, right? Is like they're these plants are literally sending all the meat to China.
Absolutely.
And it just
there are no regulations, and so again, it all comes back to knowing where was your fish raised, in what kind of water, or your food for that matter, how was it raised, what was it fed, and who handled it, and how did it get to you. And that's one thing that we're fortunate enough to be able to provide. People want. So we have people reach out to us all the time. Tell me about this. Tell me about that.
That's so cool.
We do farm tours, and we have nothing to hide. So, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's something that I think we can keep small in terms of the growers and build a co-op and bring more product to people.
That's so great. I think you're right too, from the collaboration standpoint, right? All of a sudden you're giving these people who have probably been doing this for decades.
Yeah, for sure.
Just this outlet where all of a sudden, and I think even Elise does that, right? Is all of a sudden we're saying, wait a second, I see you. Let's work together.
Right.
And like do it a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, and you just have to have enough of the product, and that's where these mom and pops come in. And if you can bring them together and create sort of a sales and marketing channel for them.
Yeah.
So that you can put their name on the actual product, and the consumer can pick that up and know actually where it came from, and that it was, so we're working with partner farms that we test the water, make sure it's as pure and clean as the water we have.
Yep.
We make sure the feed that they're using is the same feed that we're using, and we don't compromise on either one of those, and then we help them with best practices on how to harvest, and then we take the fish from there.
Do you guys smoke everything, or are you sending?
No, yeah. So our smoked product is sort of caught, it's caught on because it's, it's a fully cooked product. You can eat it. My kids eat it like ham.
Yeah.
I put it on a cracker or some cream cheese.
It's delicious. I took some to the pool this summer.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
it's handy. It's a good appetizer. Yeah. It does well in the summer. It does well in the winter. But no, I would say the majority of our fish is fresh fillets that get delivered to restaurants.
Okay.
Yeah. So that right now is the majority of our fish. There are some, interesting things happening in Minnesota with one of the big progressive seafood companies there that has decided to be transparent and focus on the brands as opposed to just a SKU, which is counterculture to the whole seafood world for sure. So we're excited about a partnership with them. They currently sell a lot of smoked fish in small markets, the Pipkins, even Whole Foods and different grocery stores and butcher shops and that in Wisconsin.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So right now you're just working on for future stuff to say that, you're really focused on the collaborations are key for you guys to continue to create sustainable model.
Mm-hmm.
People in Cincinnati obviously can go to Montgomery's Farmers Market, which is on Saturdays.
It's on Saturdays. Yeah, from 9 to 12:30.
Okay. And then Ohio Valley Food Connection, I'm sure she sells it on the home outlet, so you could add it to your cart.
She does. Yeah, you can add it to your cart, and she has those pickup locations across town. There's a new company called Market Wagon.
Yeah.
Just came into town.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting because that is only direct to your house, which is different.
Right.
Different than Ohio Valley. So I think those things are important to have smart people behind the distribution.
It is, because then you keep the chain intact, right? Because if you've got people from the top leading from their, heart, essentially, right?
Correct.
I mean, they are leading these mission driven, and they, like you or like us, you will not divot from that, right? Like
right. You don't compromise,
right?
Yeah,
Compromise.
There you go. Just don't compromise,
right?
And I think you'll win at the end of the day because consumers now have access. They have access.
Yeah.
There is no hiding. I mean.
And it's easy. Like it's not only do we have access, but like we have access without a lot of, it's not hard to find this stuff out anymore.
Correct. And it's not hard to find out what's good for you and what's not. There is a lot of conflicting information because there's just a lot of information, but the information's available now.
Right. And I think we joke kind of about this, right? It's everybody has something, and no matter. Food is one of these tricky animals that no matter, like, this person believes this, right? Like if you eat 4 apples a day, you're going to live to your, 200 years, or like kale's bad for you, or like, right? Like everybody has their shtick, but like at the end of it, it's the people who are just really focused on the clean food.
Right. That's a good point. I mean, there is so much obviously out there on diet and what to eat and how much of what to eat. I think at the end of the day, that's sort of even hitting this terminal velocity point where people are just saying, you know what, just eat good, clean food, like real food.
Yeah.
I mean, or 10%. Start with 10%.
10%. And the restaurants now, I mean, our Cincinnati restaurants, it's incredible the food that you can go and just have a really good, clean, simple meal.
And we're finding that restaurants want to promote when they can where that food came from.
Absolutely.
So there's value to them.
Keeps the store intact.
Absolutely. So in a lot of restaurants in Milwaukee and Madison and Sheboygan where we are, it's Plymouth Springs rainbow trout. on the menu.
Yeah.
So, it also sparks a conversation because more people are coming in asking, where did this come from?
Yeah.
And, we educate servers and chefs all the time.
That's awesome.
And so they're able to communicate that.
So you've got this fish company, but you also have you're a dad of 4.
Yes, correct. Which is sort of, how it all started, right?
Right.
And, once my oldest, demanded to have food that we knew where it came from because she couldn't handle, processed stuff in her gut, it changed everything. So, and then we just continue that with each of them. So
that's so awesome.
4 girls.
4 girls.
They, a couple of them, they do earn their keep. My oldest can run the Montgomery Farmers Market pretty much by herself.
That's so awesome.
All the way down to swiping the square.
Yeah. I think it's so important as a mom. I talk about that. 2 of my 3 could at this age. My youngest is like, you want me to get off the couch?
Yeah, everybody's done everything.
No, thanks. But you could bring a bag home to me, Mom. That'd be great.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important, right?
Evolved.
Like they're the shift for us, though, right? When we talk about the ones or how over the last 10 to 15, 20, 30, 40 years of our food system, these kids we're raising to say, wait a second, you got to carry the torch.
Right, because we really, our parents didn't have the knowledge. They were ignorant in the sense that it wasn't available.
Right.
They were completely tricked by the fat-free, sugar-free world of processed food. Man. But the internet didn't exist for me.
Right.
And
absolutely.
For my parents, certainly. So they sort of had an excuse, right? Unless they were, in the nutritional health world or whatever, they just didn't have access to it. Now, I feel like that's the responsibility we have as parents just because we have access to the information. It's not hard to get. So if you can read or if you have a smartphone, you should be able to know what to feed your kids. And the more you know, the more you feel obligated to do that.
And a little bit goes a long way. Mm-hmm. It's I think showing them that it's literally can come down to like just a choice.
Making good choices.
And we can't make all good choices all the time.
Right.
And how do you feel after that? Or,
Correct.
all of that stuff we talk about a lot.
Yeah.
I have one daughter and we talk about like how your body feels, right? I mean, like that's a thing that getting back to the core of it, which is really amazing as a parent to witness, but also just as a community and to have that conversation with other business owners or parents to say like, wait a second, no, we're shifting this whole thing. Yeah.
And having a daughter, I think what you're touching on is obviously I'm very sensitive to, I'm a default feminist. I'm a advocate. I think, I actually like what's happening with, social media in that there's more tolerance. I feel like it can be more about good decisions and how you feel, not necessarily how you look. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's important. So we stress that a lot. And I think back to your thing, like, let's change the world. Well, we can break a cycle. We can break a cycle that we were a part of. So we can break a cycle because if our kids are educated and they at least have the knowledge, they're going to hopefully pass that on to their kids. And now you're going to have, kids that are educated about what's good for them, what's good for their development and all that good stuff. So
I love that.
Yeah. That's
awesome.
That's what drives us really.
Yeah. That's a great,
in the end.
That is such a great driving force.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, what's the point? Like, what's the end game here? To make as much money as possible.
Right.
I mean, if that's the end game, I mean, we're safe, we're good, right. we're not in risk of doing that over here. But at the same time, what's the whole point of all of this?
What's the whole point of all of this
with the kids?
Oh my gosh!
It's like to make so much money that they don't have to do anything for themselves, or they get comfortable, or that just doesn't end up working out.
Right.
I have in my small, slice of life, I haven't seen it work out well. Yeah. For kids.
No, and I think that they want to be part of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, my guys want to know what's going on, or how they can help, or like,
yeah, what are you doing, and why are you doing it? I mean, they will, if they don't fully comprehend it now, they will.
You have to keep showing up.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And they'll catch on.
They will.
Yeah. I started Grateful Grams when Rosie was 5 months old.
Oh, wow.
And so the two littlest ones really don't know anything other than that.
Yeah.
But it started for me. I wanted to create a cookie company that my kids could like read the ingredients of.
Yeah.
Like there was no more, right? Like, of course,
huge.
like this woman empowerment and like showing my daughter, I have two boys, but like, you can do anything. Like you literally have the biggest opportunity being alive right here and right now to like make anything you want happen. And the only way to do that is to show up and try.
Yep. Exactly.
Like there's the right secret sauce. Let's go like
absolutely.
And so here we've got these kids where we're like, wait a second, no, it's not a sacrifice. I'm not sacrificing our lifestyle or the steady income checks, right? I'm saying, wait a second, we can do it differently. And as a family, we're going to just kind of go with it, right? Like,
you bring up an interesting point. I mean, back to, my day job, I mean, a lot of it has been working with higher ed and, the education system because of the software that I was selling. And that's a broken system. And you look at what a kid can achieve, education is important. We don't need to necessarily go down that debate, but it's broken. It's as broken, if not more, than the food system was and sort of still is. But the platforms that are available and the opportunity that's available to put together a team like you even have right here to get your word out and to build your business didn't exist when we were growing up. There were 3 media outlets and you needed, tens of thousands of dollars and, TV time and billboard money and production crew, and it wasn't possible.
Right.
And it is possible now.
It is absolutely possible. And I think that's what I love is at the end of the day, any of these conversations we have, we all end in that space. Like you started this because you were like, I got to try it.
Right.
If I don't, like, so what happens if it all closes tomorrow? Like, right? Like we still created this amazing body of work we're really proud of. And we were part of that change.
You were doing something. I have a good friend who works in financial services world and, he makes a ton of money. And, I'm kind of like, they do different things. They drive different cars. They go on different vacations. And he made a comment to me once and he said, I'm speculating on everything and you're actually out there producing something and making something and creating jobs. He's like, it may not show up in your paycheck, but just know that the grass isn't always greener. So that was an interesting perspective. That was an interesting perspective.
Grant, I am so happy to just sit here with you and like talk about all of this. And I'm so excited. I'm grateful that you showed up at our kitchen and knocked on the window, I think, of the office and said hi.
It's like, can I get a signature? And, autograph? I've
Stop it.
But no, thanks for giving me the time. And I think that, like you said, the community is important and you're sort of a hub for that community right now.
It's really cool. We can all do it together because it's really, really hard work.
If nothing else, it's, finding people that, maybe won't think you're as crazy as everybody else around you.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's
nothing like pulling all the crazies together in a room. At least we eat, right?
Exactly.
At least we've got this cool thing.
That's right.
Grant, what are you grateful for?
What am I grateful for? I'm grateful for, my kids and my wife and, our family. So, that's like the end. What is the end game? What are you doing it for? You're not doing it for the paycheck. You're doing it for a legacy and to raise good human beings.
So good. So grateful for these conversations, grateful for your wife. I've filmed things in my house and I know that it's fun, but like the work to like get anything ready. So appreciate you having us here.
There's a room somewhere where everything is shoved.
Don't open the closet door in the hallway, y'all. Which is part of it, right? Like that working, living human beings trying to make a change and a difference. And these conversations are, I think, such a big part of it. Grateful to the team that helps put these together, and super excited to eat some more of your rainbow trout.
Yeah,
He's
for sure.
gifted us with some.
Send your mom
So
with some.
super excited for everybody to try that. And if you guys have not Googled them yet, get online and do that. Follow them, give their Facebook page a like, and we'll link all of this stuff somehow. That's the magic of these beings that are doing all this good work with me.
Yeah.
They link stuff and make it all talk. So thank you so much. I'm your host, Rachel DesRochers, Kitchen Convos. We'll see you next week.